these agreements together to help these companies stay in Ohio, that it involved lower costs. But we also made sure they were our return on investment positive. So you don't give away the store. But I'm kind of tired of that. I'm tired of in a position of having to save something as opposed to being on the offense. And that's where we're heading. But with the things that you mentioned here, Dublin is a great community. I agree with that. Yes, ma'am.
Any possibility of Ohio looking at some type of a targeted jobs tax credit for small businesses?
Well, we already have that.
Okay.
We have a targeted jobs tax credit and a refundable tax credit and all kinds of stuff. But if you have questions on that, you know, we actually try to answer those questions. So we'll give you the name of our development people, and you can see the whole range of stuff that we have that is available. So, you know, if you're thinking about doing something, we'd like to talk to you. We obviously have limited resources in terms of how much we can do, but we measure it all against payroll gains. And the other thing is we don't pass it out on the hope that we need guarantees, because without that, you know, we've had to go back and claw some stuff back from businesses that were promising to do certain things and they didn't. But you need to access our Department of Development. We've got people here that can tell you how to do it. If you've got a good program and a good plan, you know, we'd love to help you.
As one of the few remaining states where the state runs workers' comp, any part of the vision include turning that over to the private sector?
Well, we have a constitutional issue on that, and I think what we're likely to look at, from what my folks have told me at this point, is there are functions in there that can be significantly improved. And I want to do those things, and let me tell you, the idea that you just get rid of that has profound implications if you privatize it. I'm not afraid to privatize anything if it makes sense, but I'm not convinced at this point that that's the way we ought to go. But clearly we need to make additional gains in that whole area of workers' comp, because it's probably a big cost for you. So we're looking at it. Now, at the same time, we're eliminating the deficit, cutting the taxes, you know, or maintaining the taxes, cutting some taxes. All these things we're talking about, you know, privatizing some of the prisons, creating a not-for-profit jobs program. I could just go on and on and on about all we're doing. I saved a few things for later. And the workers' comp is something we'll look at more aggressively the second half of the year, but you should be encouraged by the fact that we've already lowered base rates by 4%. And if you get into safety programs, you're going to pick up, I think, another 2 or another 4. And so that's kind of the that's the scoop. Get it? We're in an ice cream place. That's the scoop. All right. No, we're not going to do press right now. This is for the public. We'll get to the press later. Yes?
Governor, you mentioned re-energizing vocational education. Do you have any ideas on how to make that happen?
I think the first thing we need to do is stop badmouthing it and putting it down and letting people know that if you're in that, you know, you're on a pathway to low-paying jobs somehow. And so it's going to involve a seamless work. And what we're going to be doing here soon is to have a meeting with the 4-year schools, the 2-year schools, and the vocational schools all included, to talk about how do we create a seamless way to train Ohio workers for the jobs that exist. And so a big part of it is to stop telling people, don't go into voc. Remember when it used to be, when we were in school, or I was in school, you're a lot younger than I am. You know, there's a limit to my ability to not be a politician. No, you are a lot younger than I am. The fact of the matter is, Alan Shepard's not, but you are. But the fact of the matter is, a big chunk of it is to start reversing this and saying, you know, in these school districts, the guidance counselors, the teachers, whatever, hey, you might want to think about taking some vocational courses, you know. But you've got to work on it. You've got to see what are the tools, and that's why I like to have meetings with people who know this stuff and say, what do you think? Think about the downside, but we don't do a lot of navel gazing. We believe we've got to get moving. And this is one that's a little bit farther reaching, but we'll get into it. I think we've got meetings scheduled June or July to start dealing with it, okay? Yes, sir.
Governor, you began by talking about jobs that are created by small businesses. I could agree with you more on that. However, how are we addressing the tight financial markets in terms of lending practices that are presently, and how do you see that to resolve, being a federal issue more than a state issue?
Well, you know, it's a problem. I mean, we have basically an equity problem in Ohio to begin with. My question is, you know, you're doing all these things, but how are we going to get people to lend money? You know, you see the ads on TV about Chase, you know, when they say they're going to loan $12 billion to small business or whatever. But here's what I know has happened. I know that in the rush days here, where Wall Street, the banks, everybody, you know, Fannie, Freddie, all this stuff, that everything was so loose. Credit was so loose. So if you came in and you asked a bank for a loan, you know, and you said, I'm going to build a Starbucks, and you end up with Aunt Jenny's pretzel shop, the valuations were wrong. And you could not generate the revenue from Aunt Jenny's that you could from Starbucks. I think what a lot of the banks are saying is, we will lend, but you've got to have good collateral in order to get the money. If you don't have good collateral, we're not going to loan to you. And at the same time, I believe, and I don't, you know, I believe there's been a mixed message out of the federal regulators. I think on one hand, they say, well, we want you to lend, but on the other hand, they scrutinize every loan to the point where they've kind of paralyzed some people, certainly slowed the process down. I had a meeting about 2 weeks ago with, it's probably about 40 banks in Ohio, and I'm going to continue to have these meetings. Some of the state chartered banks, they have a tough time because they're paying taxes not on net income. They're paying taxes even if they don't make money. We're taking a look at that. I think it is a matter of getting the feds to be consistent in their policy. And secondly, though, I think it's been a natural reaction. They loaned all this money, they got all these bad loans, now all of a sudden they don't want to loan any money. Be careful of everything I say, folks, okay? It's tough to get a loan out of them because it's been an overreaction. The pendulum will settle back, and then we'll be back to a more normal process. For people that have good collateral, they're not having trouble getting money. It's the people that don't have the good collateral that aren't getting it, and a lot of times those are the people that are trying to start a business and get going, and so it's difficult. But I've talked to Jamie Dimon about it. I've talked to a little bit to Pat Teaberry about it, but we just have to stay at it. Stay at it. I believe it's beginning to loosen a little bit, but maybe not to the degree that you want. Yes, ma'am.
I applaud you on tackling the budget. I think that's one